Hey all, Sarang here. So in this video, we're going to learn how to do the error handling in the gRPC microservice. So far I have been uploaded 5 videos on the gRPC where you can learn how to develop the gRPC microservice using Spring Boot. And also I have covered the JWT authentication and authorization using Spring Boot for your gRPC microservice. And also we covered the reactive gRPC Spring Boot microservices. And also I just uh, created a video where I've just showed the use case of gRPC client streaming where you can upload a file in chunks. So this is the video, and in all the videos I have not covered the error handling. So this is the video where we can learn how to do the error handling for your gRPC microservices. So let's head towards the application. So I have a application with the name error handlings, and I have 3 modules here which goes by client, Proto, and the server. So this project structure I maintain in all the microservices. So I'll do the same. I'll not change any structure of the project here. And the client is acting as a client microservice, and the server is acting as a gRPC microservice. And this Proto is a common module for the client and server. So let's go ahead and create a few messages. So let's go and create one directory with the name Proto. And here I'm gonna create a file with the name schema.proto, and I'll just start writing the messages, and I'll generate the objects using the schema files. So I also have all the dependencies here in these projects, and I have not changed any of the dependencies. So all the projects or all the videos are using this same structure, and all the dependencies are same. So let's go ahead and create one proto file. So I'll start with writing a syntax. Be using a Proto 3, and here I'll be using an option where I need to generate multiple files, and I need a package where I can generate all the classes. So I'll just write it as comms.devproblems. I'll just create one message with the name customer, where the customer would have a string and email as well. And here I will also create one service. The service would be just a second, it would be service, and the service would be a customer service. And I'll define one RPC method called get customer, which accepts a customer and returns the customer object back. Okay, so we are good now. And I'll also define one ID here for identification. Okay, so I have created a proto file. Now I'll go and generate the code based off this proto file. So I will just go to the proto directory, and I'll run maven clean install, so that the proto package get installed locally, and I can use it in the client and the server, and so I can make use of the stubs that are getting generated out of this proto files. Okay, cool. So I will go ahead in the server module, and here in the Java I'll just create one uh, customer service, okay, which would extend uh, customer IMPL base. And here I'm gonna override the one of the method that got generated. So I'll just take you to the method that got generated here, and go up here. So we can see the package. The class got generated in the package com.devproblems, and these are the generated classes. The service represents the service that we have declared in the profile. Anyways, I have covered all these things in all the other videos, so make sure that you watch the other videos so that you are pretty much clear what's happening here. And I've just explained in detail what is this IMPL base and why we need to override all these methods. Okay, and we have to mark this service as gRPC service. So here I will throw one error, because we have to learn how to handle the error in the gRPC microservices, right? So we in the gRPC we have 3 kind of channels. One is data channel, another one is error channel, and another one is complete channel. Okay, so whenever you want to send a data to the client, you have to send the object in the data channel. And if you want to generate errors, or if you have errors in your server and you want to send it to the client, then you have to send the error in the error channel. And if you have done with all the data, or all the data has been sent to the client, then you just have to call the onComplete method, so that the server so that the client knows that all the data has been received by the client, and no further data would be sent by the server. So you have to kind of send invoke the complete method when you're done sending the data. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I will just get the ID, and if the ID is equal to 2, okay, so I'll sending a customer, the customer would have an ID, and I will just get the get ID, and I'll check if the customer is true, then I will just throw one error here. Okay, so it accepts a throwable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make use of the status class, which has few standards status, like how we have in the rest, the HTTP status we have, like 200 and 500 or something like that. In gRPC we don't have such kind of things. So here in the status class we have few standard status that we're going to make use of, and here I'm going to also create one exception class here, so that we're going to say to the client that the customer with the ID2 is not available. So I'll just write customer not found exception class. Okay, and which extends a runtime exception, and I'm going to create a constructor here very quickly. uh, okay, so here I will just write msg, which is a message, and I will pass it to the runtime exception class. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is first I will just mention the status that the customer is not found. Okay, and I can also give a description saying that customer with ID, uh, just a second, not found here. Okay, and here I can also throw one of the exception class that we have just created, right? So we're going to write with cause, and here I'm going to give the cause. So the cause is nothing but the customer exception class, that is customer not found exception. So I'll just write ensure uh, the the customer provided in request is correct. Okay, so here what I have done is if the client is clients wants the detail of the customer which has ID 2, then we're gonna throw an error using this on error channel, and we're gonna first mention the status that the customer is not found, and this status not found represents that the customer is not found, and we're gonna give a description saying that customer ID 2 is not found. We're gonna give a cause that we have just added the customer not found exception here. Okay, so if there is any other ID or any other customer information that the client wants, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna write on next method, and here I'm gonna build the customer really quickly, and I will just write set email something. I will write here. Okay, so gmail.com, and I'm gonna write dot build. That's it. And we also have to kind of inform the client that all the data has been sent, no further data is going to come, so you just have to call the onCompleted method. Okay, this looks fine. So let's go to the client microservice and try to invoke this service that we have created on the server, right? So I'm going to implement the application runner here, and I'm going to implement the method called run here. Okay, so the reason I'm separating the client and the server microservice is, like, I want you guys to understand that this client is acting as a real microservice. So for this demo purpose, I've just implemented the application runner, but in the but the error handling that we're going to do on the client side is going to be same. Okay, just that I'm implementing this particular interface. So now what we're going to do is we're going to uh, inject the customer stub, or we can say the client stub that got generated. So customer gRPC dot customer blocking stub. Okay, and I will just give a reference to it, and I will just also add it to the constructor over here. So what is this blocking stub and all and everything I have explained in all the other videos, so make sure that you watch those videos and come back to this video. Okay, so now I'm gonna call this get customer, and I'm gonna, let's say, build a customer request, and here I will just pass the ID as 1, and now I will just write it as build. Okay, so now I'll get the customer in return. So here I'm not gonna do anything fancy, so I'll just write s out customer. Okay, so the expectation is here is the application, when the client application starts, this particular method would be invoked, and the blocking stuff would call the get customer method, which is present on the server. Right now, the client has to know where the server is at. We have to give the address, we have to mention the port somewhere, right? So we're gonna make use of application YAML file here, and I'm gonna write gRPC client error handling. You can give any name you want, and here I'm going to mention the address. Since it's a local host, so we just have to write like static localhost 9090 is the standard port at which the gRPC listen, this gRPC server listens. Okay, and here I'm gonna write the negotiation type as plain text. We are not doing SSL or TLS, so this is fine. I misspelled this negotiation here, and this looks fine now. Okay, so now when injecting, we just have to pass on that information about the server here by mentioning the um, let me just show this application YAML. We have mentioned that this error handling is a variable that holds the address and negotiation type information of the server. So I just have to inform that you just have to inject this particular error handling. You can say a variable. Okay, and now I will quickly go ahead and just start the server application here. Okay, so okay, the server has started with no exception. That's great. And now I'm gonna start the customer, sorry, the client application as well. So as you can see on the response, I got the customer information, name and the email address. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just go ahead and change the code for the client. I'll just send to, and the expectation is here is the exception will be thrown from the from the server. So let's see. Okay, so we got exception saying that something got failed because we were unable to catch the exception on the client side. So on the server side, if you can remember that we are throwing an exception when the customer ID is 2 and we are sending in the error channel, correct? So now on the client side, what we have to do is we just have to make use of try and catch here. Okay, so here I will write as a status runtime exception, and this is the standard exception that is thrown from the server. So basically I'm here sending the exception as customer not found, as you can see over here, customer not found exception. But the customer not found exception is gets wrapped with the customer runtime exception, sorry, the status runtime exception. So what would happen is when you throw any of your runtime exception, and the status runtime exception will wrap those exceptions. So on the client side, on the catch block, I have written this the status runtime exception. Sorry, and here we have to get the status, and we'll create status here and status dot get description. Okay, so we are good here. I will just do the s out here quickly. Okay, so make it like this, and now we should get the description that we have sent from the server. So I'll just go ahead and just close all these unwanted tabs. So the customer service is what we are looking at. So the description will be sent as the customer with ID 2 is not found. Okay, and we have also sent the cause, right? So let's print out the cause as well. So status dot get uh, dot get cost as well, which is going to be a throwable, right? So it has thrown, it is giving some okay, no worries. So let's go ahead and start the client application. We have the server is already up and running, so let's go and start the client application now. Okay, so we got the description saying that customer with ID 2 now is not found, and the other S out we got a null, and the reason is the cost will not be sent from server to the client. So that point you have to make sure in your mind that the cost actual cost will not be sent. So what is the cost over here? It's a exception, right? So the exception will not be this kind of exception information will not be given to the client from the server. So that thing you have to make sure. So so this is fine. So make sure that you go with the description here. So with the for the cost we're gonna see the other error handling, the other way of error handling. So with the description you can also just create a JSON string out of it, and you can deserialize the JSON string into a object on the client side as well. So that is one of the way that you can make use of JSON string in your description. Okay, so this looks fine now. So let's look at the second way of handling the error in the gRPC microservice. Okay, so now let's look at the second way of error handling in the gRPC. So in the first that we have discussed that we can send a status, the standard status that is not found, which is relevant to our use case that we have developed now, that the customer is not found if the client is requesting for the ID 2, right? So the reason I've also added the cause here, with the cause saying that the customer not found exception here, and we have seen that the customer not found exception is not even reached to the client. And the reason I've just added that, because I just want you to know that if you're just adding this with cause, it has no meaning on the client side, because all the exception that are thrown from the server side will be a status runtime exception that I mentioned here. Now we know that in the REST space, we usually give the custom error objects in the response if we just want to give more details to the client. So the usually we can create an object which would have an error type, and the message the message which would contain the reason of the error that has been occurred, right? So to do that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the schema.proto file here. I'm going to create a new message with the name custom error, and here I'm going to write the error type and also mention the message over here as well. Okay, so since I have made changes, in order to reflect those changes in the client and server microservice, I have to install this changes here first. Okay, so now this customer error class would be generated. So let's try to use this class in the server first. So what we're gonna do is so let's create a status first that we usually created in the first approach as well. So status dot not found here. In order to send the custom error, we have to make use of the metadata. Okay, so if you're not aware about the metadata, I would recommend you to go to the other videos that I have in my playlist that would explain you about what is metadata. So I think this is the second video would help you to understand what is metadata. So we're going to make use of that. So I'll create the object of metadata over here, and for that I have to create a key. So metadata dot key, it's gonna be okay, so I'll just write it outside. So metadata dot key, and this would hold a custom error, and I will just write it error key, and proto utils dot key for proto. So it's going to be a custom error here. So I'm going to mention the key over here and give the value as set message. The message would be the customer ID with 2 is not found. Okay, you can write whatever message you want that is relevant to your use case. Just a second. And then I'm also going to set the error type, and it's going to be not found here as well. And I'll just build the object over here. So we have added the custom error inside our metadata, right? So what I'm going to do right now here is I'll convert this status to as runtime exception and pass the metadata inside, so that the metadata information is also passed to the client. Okay, I will just remove this part here and add it under the if condition, and here I will just remove this whatever I've written inside the on error channel and write it over here. Okay, so this looks fine, and I will just remove this extra statement I've written over here. So we are good on the server side. So let me just refactor it a bit, and now let's go in the client side. So we have just printed out the description of the error, right? So now I think we have not added the description here, so we can add something like customer not found, something like this. Okay, or else it doesn't make a sense to add a description here, right? Because we have added the custom error, and we have mentioned the message and error type here as well. So here I'm gonna remove this thing. Okay, now let's go ahead and get the metadata. So I'll just pass the status runtime here, and I'll introduce the local variable which would have metadata here. So if I need to get the custom error out of the metadata, I need to create a key. So I have already created a key like here. So it's similar to the map, the hash map that you have. So in order to get the value, we have to pass that relevant key. So here, yeah, so I'll just write it get an error key. I'll get a custom error in the response like this, and I will just print it out here like this. So let's go ahead and start the server. I think we are good. So I'll go ahead and quickly go to the main class here and start the application. Okay, cool. The server has been started. Now let's go ahead and start the client application here as well. So what is the expectation here? So when we are sending this set ID as 2, that means we'll get an exception here. It's going to be our type status runtime exception, and we are just extracting the metadata out of the exception that we have thrown, and then we will just print it out the custom error object that we have got from the server. So let's go ahead and run. Okay, so as you can see, the error object looks fine. Now we got error type and the message as well saying that customer with ID2 is not found. So this was one of the way that you can handle errors in gRPC. Using metadata, you can pass on your custom error object like, and you can just inform your client that something is wrong. So now the other way, since we are using since we are using sorry the Spring Boot, right? So there should be a way to um, centralize all your error handling. So in the REST we have a controller advice, and similar in the gRPC we have a gRPC advice. So what I'm gonna do over here is I'm gonna create a class with the name say customer advice, and here I will annotate with the gRPC advice, and I'm just gonna write gRPC exception handler. Okay, so here I'm gonna pass the customer not found exception, and I will here pass as status runtime exception in return, and I will write handle customer not found exception, and here I'll pass the class. Okay, so now whatever we have done inside the get customer method, that we will just move that logic into the advice. So here now we don't have to mention the response observer on error, because that will be taken care inside the advice. So I will just cut this code from here and paste it over here. Okay, nothing, no errors we have got so far. So we just have to return status dot add exception, then pass the metadata. Okay, so here from the service, what we have to do is we just have to throw the customer not found exception saying that customer. I think we can just take that same message from here and pass it over here. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I will get the exception over here, right? So I'll just do the get message that would be added over here. Now let's start the server again since we have made the changes, right? So I'll restart the server, and we will start the client. We should get the same logs that we have got in the earlier way, right? So let's go and see. Okay, now we got the same response, as in we got the custom error. And now the changes that we have done is we have introduced a gRPC advice annotation, which helps you to centralize all your error handling logic. So here we have thrown the customer not found exception. We are catching it over here, and we are writing a logic that what needs to be added in the custom error, and then we are sending that to the client. So this is the I think the second or the third way that we have learned how to do the error handling in the gRPC. Now we're gonna look at the other ways that how we can handle the errors. So here we have created a status, and then we have created the object of metadata, where we have added the custom error, which has our property of error type and the message. So now what I'm gonna do is I want to use a Google package which also has a status, but it has all the properties, relevant properties that we need to add it into our error objects. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a status object only, but with a different package. So it's going to be Google RPC dot status, and I'm going to build that. I'm going to set the code here, code dot not found value. I'll show you what is this code, and I'll just add the details here. So the details contains uh, so I'll just remove this. So here we have to pass any. So any means like any objects that you want to pass it in the error. So here we have created a custom error as well. As you know, we have added in the metadata. So what I'm gonna do over here is just take that and write it over here and build the status. Okay, so now it is this information that we have added, and this one is it's almost same. It's just that we have not added the metadata inside it. And here actually it's fine if we don't add the metadata inside that. We just need that custom error object, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all these things here, right? So here I'm going to write the or introduce a variable over here, and then I will just name it as a status. And here I'm going to make use of the status proto uh, class, and it should be just hold on for a second, the input is wrong. It should be from IO-gRPC Protobuf, and then I just have to write to status runtime exception and pass the status over here. It is same what we have done earlier. It's just that we have removed the metadata and then only focused on our custom error here, right? So this code is nothing but the not found only. The all the status is of type enum, and it has a value over here. So the not found has a value called 5. So that's what we have added in the code. So what we're going to do is when we send it to the client will get this code, and the client will understand that the 5 is nothing but the not found. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly go to the client application over here and change the code a bit over here, since we are not gonna receive the metadata now. So here I'm just gonna remove all these things. Status dot we're gonna make use of status proto only. Status proto dot from throwable. Okay, so here we will get a status, and using this first let's extract the code. So I'll just write code for number. We will get a number called 5 in the status. So here I'm gonna write get code, and I will just write it to string. Okay, so I will just introduce a local variable over here, and I think it should, yeah, I'll just write not found. Okay, I think I missed that. Just a second. I'll just change that to not found, and I'll just print it out over here, not found. And then we just have to extract the custom error as well. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make use of the any, as we have wrapped our custom error inside the any object. So we have to kind of get that information from the any. So it's going to be of type list, and we'll get the the any using this any called if the any dot is custom error dot class. Okay, then what I'm gonna do is any dot unpack, again custom error dot class. We have only added custom error inside our any, so that's what we are trying to extract it out, and this is fine. I'm gonna do the unpack. So the response, it's gonna be same. It's just that we have optimized the way that we have created the status and the custom error in the earlier way of handling the errors. So now I'm gonna start the server again, and then I will start the client. I should get the same information over here. Yeah, so not found is nothing but the status we have got it from the code, and then the error type and the message is same. So that was one of the way that you can write your status in this way. Okay, so this is fine. So let's go ahead and see that how we can handle errors in the gRPC stream. So you might be aware about the gRPC types we have, right? The unary, the client streaming, server streaming, and the bidirectional streaming. So this examples that we have seen here, it's for the unary. We have not seen for the other streaming types. So now we're gonna look how we can handle errors in the streaming types. Okay, because in the streaming types you have to kind of handle it in a different way. And here what I have done is I've just thrown the exception that we want to throw when the id is true. But in the streaming rpc types we cannot throw like this. We have to kind of use a different way of handling an errors. So we're gonna look at that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and see how we can handle errors in the other RPC types, that is the streaming ones. We have just looked it for the unary. So for that, I just have to create one more RPC type over here. So I'll be creating the server streaming RPC type. So what about the error handling mechanism that we're going to use for the streaming? The server streaming would be same for the client and the bidirectional as well. So I'll just write get customers, and here I'll just not pass any request. So I'll just write it here as empty, and then returns the customer details here. And I'll just tell you why we need this customer details. Okay, so the reason of writing this is, just a second, just let me just complete this one. The customer is gonna be 1, and the custom error is gonna be 2, and we're gonna return the customer details. So let me just remove this error by importing that particular Google package, Google, then protobuf slash empty.proto. Now the error has gone. Okay, so now the reason that we have created this customer detail and that we have added one of is here is, so we are just trying to say that the client will get this customer details in the return, and the inside this there could be a customer or there could be an error. So one thing I want you to understand here is, so if we try to send the errors on the on error channel, so if you remember that we have used on error over here, right? So when you're trying to invoke the streaming service, and if you in between you're if you're streaming some data and in between you're throwing the error, then the connection between the client and the server will be closed. So in the streaming services, it's good to it's good to treat the error as an event, as a data, not as an error. So we will just use this concept, like treat the error as a data, as a normal data only, and let the client decide what to do with that. Okay, so what we have done over here is we have mentioned it over here that in the server streaming, when the server is streaming the data to the client, the data could have the customer data there, or there could be a customer error as well. So So the client have to kind of write a switch statement over here, that when it's a custom error, then what action needs to be taken, and when the data is customer, then what action needs to be taken for that. So that's what we have done over here. So what I'm going to do is, since we have made changes in the proto file, I'm just going to go to the proto directory and run mvm clean install. Okay, so to reflect those changes, and also to generate a new code. So we got this thing, and let's go to the server and implement, or let's override that the get customers here. So here what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just create a range from 1 to 10, since I have to send some data, right? So in stream dot range, so it's not in stream dot range, I'll just mention 1 to 10, and for each I'll just say number. If the number is not even, so number is, let's say it's an odd number, then I just want to create a customer details object dot new builder, and then set the custom error over here. So custom error, we're going to use the new builder dot set error type, let's say again not found. Set the message as I'll just use string, just a second, string dot format. I'll write customer with id not found. So it's a number, so I just have to write d over here and fill that placeholder by passing the number. So that would fill the placeholder in the runtime. Okay, so you just have to write the comma over here, and then I have to build it and build that customer details. So here, that's some issue over here. So we're gonna send the data from here, right? So there is some error over here, the custom error. Set custom, it's okay, so it should be set custom error here. Okay, now it's cool. So now if the number is even, then I will just set the customer over there like this. So I will copy this part and place it over here, and here I will just write set customer, and I will just write it customer dot, I think I can get that information, the exact information from here. Okay, so this looks fine. Okay, so I'll just refactor it. So what I'm doing here is, so it's a new builder here, we don't want this one, it's a redundant, and place it over here. So what we are doing is, if the number is odd, then we are kind of saying that this particular number customer is not available. If the number is even, then we'll send that information to the client with that information's sarang and the email id. Okay, so I will just use this and create an variable over here, just a second. Okay, since I'm treating the error as a data, so what I'm going to do is, I will just write response observer dot on next. I'll just write not found, something like this. And when the customer is even also, I'll just treat that as a data, and I'll just pass something like sarang over here. And when I'm done, so I just have to notify a customer saying that all the information has been sent from the server side. So now we have to kind of change few things in the client as well. So here we are only invoking the get customer. We also have to invoke the get customers now. As you can see here, the method is different, get customers and get customer. Now I just have to remove this particular thing from here. So I'll remove this part. And here I have injected the blocking stub. So what I'm going to do is remove this blocking stub and make use of the asynchronous stub. So I will just write private final customer service stub async client, something like this. We can mention it over here, and I will just add that into the constructor parameter and make that as a client. Again, I will write error handling. I'll make sure that that's the same spelling, error handling. Okay, so using this, what I'm going to do is async client dot get customers empty. Okay, the empty object, and then new stream observer. So as you know that on the server side, all the data, all the errors is also treated as the data. So all the information would come on the on next, and nothing will come on the on error. And here I have to make use of the countdown latch so that the main thread waits for that all the latch to get down. So countdown latch, I'll just mention that the number is 1, and then I will write not get down, I will just start countdown, and I will ask the main thread to wait until until the counts are 0. So here what I'm going to do is customer dot get message cases. I will wrap this inside a switch statement, and then I will create a case. One is custom error, and then the other case is the customer. Okay, so I'll just print it out that uh, custom dot get custom error, and when there is a customer also I'll just write get customer. Okay, so based on the cases we are trying to get the objects from the customer details, right? So if the custom error is the case, then we get the custom error. If the customer is the case, then we'll get the get customer. So this is the thing, and yeah, I think this looks fine. So only thing that you need to make sure that in the RPC type, which is a streaming type, you can just treat your error as a data only and send it to the client. The client will decide what needs to be done from their end. Okay, so I'm gonna start the server again, and I'll just start it like from here. Okay, so now on the client application, I'm also so what gonna be the expectation is all the customer with the odd number gonna be will take this case, and all the customer with the even number will go inside this customer case. Okay, so we should see 10 log statement when I start the client service. Okay, so I could see that the logs are not got printed. So let's see what is the issue. So we have this async client, and then let me see whether the server is up and running. Yes, canceling the stream status, internal too many responses. So I just figured out the issue that we had earlier. So the reason is that we tried to create a server streaming RPC type, but we forgot to add a stream over here. So once we add that stream keyword over here, just try to install that the package, and here we'll go and start the server application. So go here, start. I think the error should go now. We'll not get any errors on the server side. So go and start the client as well. The expectation, as the customer error case will be triggered if it holds the custom error, and it will be having it for the odd customers, and for even customer will get this particular println. So let's see. Yeah, so we got few logs over here. As you can see, the error type not found for the customer ID 1, that is a odd. For E1 we got a information. For again 3 is a odd, so we got not found. E1 we got a information, and then so on. So it would go like that. So this is fine. So as you can see that we have seen various ways to handle the gRPC errors. So if I missed anyone or any other way that we can handle the gRPC errors, so let me know in the comment section. And yeah, so it would be helpful for the other people if you have used some other way to handle errors, and do add that in the comment section so that other people would be benefited as well. So I tried my best to show you all the ways that how we can handle the errors, and how we can pass the custom error object, something like that, to a client, and how they can just take the action based on the on the errors that has been sent from the server. Okay, so uh, that's all about the video. Thank you so much.